having a session today. I'm recording onto my computer so that later I can share it with you. So later on, I'll update this platform with the recorded videos. But on this Sakai platform, as I mentioned earlier, on the right-hand side, you have the announcement. On the left-hand side, you have got the menu. The menu, you have overview where you have the course out, the course description. The resources is where you download the slides. Then the video lessons are the pre-recorded sessions that you can actually have ahead of time. So please try and make use of these sessions. Please try and make use of these sessions. Please try and make use. Then you have got the announcement. Announcement tells you that you have some of the things that are upcoming. So it gives you information of what is required of you. Then you have got assignments. Assignment and quizzes are what is required of you in this required of you in the program. The research proposal assignment is a 10 paper you're supposed to submit at the end of the session. I think there's a date in which it starts and the date that ends. I think May 15th, I think so. Okay. And then you go to the tests and quizzes, you also have some quizzes that have been given to you to help you revise and also check whether you understand all the things I'm teaching you as I teach you chapter by chapter. So chapters 1 or session 1 and session 2, there's a quiz for it. Session 3, there's a quiz for it. So there'll be other questions as it comes up and as I teach you. The forum is for you to post your questions. So if you have any questions, you are going to post them there so that if you need more understanding, I could answer them. You could also send your questions on Sakai, and then even as I'm teaching right now, there's a chat button there. I've seen some people posting some questions there. So you can post questions there for me to answer. Then you've got a chat room. The chat room has to do with chats between the students, having a good time, talking to each other. But I think you'll be doing that on Sakai, on WhatsApp already, so you may not use this one. Email is to email the lecturer, but my email address, so you could choose to email me directly. You choose to email me directly. Okay. Then you also have the gradebook. Gradebook will show you the marks that you have obtained for this particular course and the assignments that are required of you. So I'll do my best to make sure that I make this class interactive as possible. So please take advantage of all the courses and the assignments and then the support you're giving to you. Anybody that cannot have access to Sakai, you are supposed to log on to Sakai with your index number and your PIN. But if it seems not to be working, it's likely that I've not added you. So you could send me your index number and then your personal email address. And then I could actually check whether you have been added. If I've not been added, some students have been added, but their index numbers are not working. So I'll use their personal email address to create an account for them, and they will receive an email for them to activate and change and add their own password. Then from there, they can use their email address, personal email address, and their PIN and the PIN number they will create or password they will create to be able to log on. But for all the students who have no issues, that means that you can just go straight ahead with your index number and your PIN number and log on to Sakai. The Sakai platform is sakai.ug.edu.gh. So please, as part of your semester mark, we'll be looking at how you log on to Sakai, how you participate in some of the online classes, and even how you participate in asking questions. Your total participation in the course is important. And then the assignments that have been given to you in the tests and quizzes. Because the tests and quizzes and the assignments, you are required to do them. As for Sakai, I know that you all find a way of logging onto it. So try as much as possible to do that so that I can get your basic mark for the course. We'll talk about exams later. As of now, the university is still thinking whether, if the thing extends, whether we'll do online exams. But don't worry, whatever that is going to be done, you have ample time to be able to think about how it will be structured for you to be able to do a good participate fairly. It's likely that maybe you may be given a 10 paper to just write, or maybe the same 10 paper you're writing may be converted to exams. So take everything that you have been given to you as like assignments serious, so that if that is converted into your exams, it doesn't become anything that you not score high on. Okay. Gideon and Jara and Rosemont, you are welcome. And Vicky, you are welcome. Okay, so somebody may be asking a question that, Prof, this research proposal that you have as our assignment, is it the same research proposal you are supposed to submit to our department when we are doing our long essay and we are supposed to write our long essay? It's a yes or no question. The reason why I'm saying that's a yes or no answer is because you need to note that for the semester, you are required to finish your EMB, you are required to write do a research work and write a long essay. But your department will require you to submit a topic or title and later submit a proposal. So if you do this assignment well and you do it within your respective discipline, you can actually submit it as part of your proposal so that the department requirements, so that you can be assigned a supervisor. But sometimes when you submit it, they may assign you a supervisor. The supervisor will change what you should research on. When that happens, it means you may be asked to write another proposal. Hence, it's advisable you gain the skill of doing research from this particular class, so that when the time is up and you are required to write a research proposal or write the long essay itself, you have the capacity to be able to do it. So my objective is to make sure that you can demonstrate competence in doing research on your own. That's more important to me than any other thing. And that is what I'll try to help achieve through this particular sessions that I'll be spending with you. So I hope that will be fair. Hope that will be fair with everybody. Okay, so with that, let me just say that Philip, you are welcome, and then Eileen, you are welcome. Eileen has been here already. Okay, Annie and Araba, Benedicta, Charles, Ansa, Christine, Janice, Jara, Nana, and Nanan Kansa, Patricia, PK Andor, Faustina, Mary, Sheila, Tekno, you are all welcome. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my Sakai screen and then go back to the lecture. But before I do that, I will mute all of you. If you have any questions, if you have any questions before I start, let me know. Faustina is saying she cannot hear me, but she can see me. Someone should help her. I think it has to do with her own computer. Okay. So what I'm going to do is that if you have any questions, you can post it in the chat, or you can raise your hand. You can use the platform to raise your hand, and I can see your hand up, and then I will try as much as possible to pause and respond to your question. Okay. Apart from that, you can also post your question in the chat screen so that I could actually respond to that. Moto G5+, you are welcome. Let's start our lecture. Vicky, you are welcome. And then Jerry Ofori, you and your daughter are welcome. And then Samuel too, you are welcome. Okay, so you are going to switch. Come on. I'm going to share the slides and then we can start teaching. Okay, so welcome to Research Methods once again. Today we'll be doing a session on why we do research. And if you finish early, you can go on to how to select a research topic. My name is Richard Boateng, and I'll be your convener for the session. Okay, so why do we do research? That's what I'll be teaching within the next 40 minutes. And I'll try to explain what research is, the types of research, explain the research design, and the classifications of research. My session is outlined in 4 topics: defining research, why we do research, the research process, and types of research. Okay, and then okay, so this is the text that we are using for the session, the lecture. I've told you about how to get it already, so you can work on that. When we come out of the session, you can get it from the book, the lockdown. You can get it from the bookshop, and then Obed, you're asking I should grant you request to record. I can't do that because there are permissions. You'll be recording not just my slide, you're recording other people too. So I don't know whether you have permission for everybody, but I'm recording. And after that, I'll do my best to edit edit some part out and then send it to you. So I'm recording myself. But if you are on a Mac, you can choose to also record by just recording the audio. Even you can do that on your own Windows machine. You can just start a recorder in the background and record the audio yourself. Okay. So let's start with our topic one, why we do research. Now, a very easy way to define what research is this definition that many people tend to ascribe to. Research is an investigation to a particular topic or social or business phenomena. Then when we say that research is an investigation, many people think that it means that every investigation that we carry out is research, but that is not always true. So we don't usually accept that because there are certain building blocks of research that we expect that every research, especially academic research, should have before we can accept it as being research. So every investigation is not necessarily research. Why? Because research itself is a systematic and organized way of finding answers to questions. Now we say research is systematic because every research process kind of subscribes to a set of defined scientific procedures and principles which the researcher need to follow in order to get reliable results and accurate results. Now, these scientific principles and procedures are usually defined by the discipline the researcher belongs to. So a marketing researcher may have to adhere to certain scientific procedures and principles which is defined by, or which have been defined by the marketing scientific community. So that when you do research as a marketer, we can check whether you have adhered to them and say that what you have done is reliable and accurate. The same with an economist, the same with an anthropologist, the same with a person from HR, the same with a person who's an accountant or of an accounting discipline. The reason why these scientific procedures and disciplines exist is that science, by the disciplinary nature of it, will has certain peculiarities for every discipline. So whenever you say you are a marketer, whenever you say you are a finance person or you are an economist, we expect you to understand certain scientific procedures and principles which govern economics, which govern marketing, which govern HR, which govern accounting, which govern all the other disciplines that you may find yourself in. So that when you do research in that discipline, we check whether that scientific community can assess, have you adhered to all the principles? Have you adhered to every single thing that we expect you to do so that we can accept that what you have done is research within the discipline that you belong to? This is one of the reasons why sometimes you have an economist clashing with a social scientist or an anthropologist on radio or a geologist on radio, and they'll be arguing on the same issue because you may be asking why are they arguing, but they all are speaking from the scientific lens that they have. That an economist will be looking for quantifying numbers and looking for specific things that will help him understand how an economy is run. But a geologist may be looking at the same issue that is within a community from a different perspective. But they are all within their scientific disciplines, right? So systematic means that whenever we start research, check which discipline do you belong to. Are you in the discipline of HR, project management? Are you in the discipline of finance? Are you in the discipline of accounting? What is required of you in these disciplines that you belong to, that you are supposed to carry out research, and that research can be deemed to be reliable and accurate? Now, despite the fact that we have all these disciplines that exist and the systematic principles that are defined by the scientific community in those disciplines, we need to also understand that despite all of these things, research is also organized. It means that research has some generic steps that you need to follow. And these steps is what it's termed as the research process, that the researcher has to follow to be able to finish his research or complete a research. Now, these ones are generic to all, being the fact that irrespective of the discipline you belong to, in every research, you are supposed to find answers, and you are supposed to find answers by having questions. So the question starts the whole research process. Because it's a search process, your search is based on the questions you have. And because of that, sometimes the answers that come out, it can be yes, no, or maybe, but it's an answer that came out of the questioning process or the searching process. So before every research can start, one of the fundamental statements that we ever emphasize is that the centrality of every research, is the question you're asking. What is central? The central premise of every research is the question that is being asked. What does it mean? It means that as you start the research, the question that you have is what matters most than just the research topic or the research area. You and I can be interested in researching on, let's say, financial laws in the state, but we may all have different questions that we are asking. Somebody may ask that, what are the policies that enhance what are the lapses in the policy that enhance financial laws in the state? Somebody may also be asking a question that may be different, that what are the socioeconomic factors that influence or kind of create an environment to facilitate the loss of financial loss in the state? We can all both be interested in studying the recent plague that we have, a pandemic that we have in the world, that COVID-19. Now, but you may have different questions, I may have different questions, but we are all trying to study the same phenomenon. So the question you are asking matters more than the topic that you are just doing the research on, because the topic may be generic, may be similar to somebody's own, but the question that you ask is what differentiates your research from another person's research. Let's say that we are both interested in fishing in Ghana, and we are even both interested in studying fishermen in Teshi. We may get to Teshi, and you may be interested in what are the modern technologies that these fishermen are using to fish. And then I may be interested in what is the impact of fishing on the livelihoods, how does fishing sustain their livelihoods? So I'm coming from a livelihoods perspective, you are coming from a technology perspective, and we are all trying to study fishermen in Teshi. So even though we have even chosen the same locality, even though we have even selected the same population, even though we have even selected the same respondents, even though we have even selected the same topic or phenomenon, we are both interested in different questions. And then, what then differentiates my research from your research is the question that we are asking. So when we say that the centrality of every research is the question you are asking, it means that the research process is guided by the questions. The question that you have differentiates your research from another person's research, number one. Number two, the question that you have is what gives the research direction or gives it drive or purpose. The reason being the fact that the reason being the fact that when you go to, when we have a question, I say I'm studying fishermen in Teshi. My question is on the modern technologies they are using for fishing. It means that by my question, I've defined that I'm going to go to Teshi, I'm going to talk to the fishermen, and I'm going to ask them questions about technology. So the type of people I'm going to even invite in my study have to be about Teshi and have to be about fishermen. How do I say I'm doing a study on fishermen in Teshi and then I end up going to Suwakope and interviewing farmers? That would be a flawed study. So the research questions guide you to be able to select even the context in which the study is taking place. Even it guides you to be able to know who will be the respondents of the study. So the research questions gives you the direction of the research, and it differentiates your research from another person's research. Another reason why we say that research questions are central to the research process is that the research questions determine whether the research is researchable or not researchable. Some questions cannot be answered by people. For example, if I go to Teshi and I ask them that, they ask the fishermen that, let me just give you an example. Why are you not using warships to fish? They may say there is what kind of question am I asking? Because how should I be thinking about warships since they are not going for war, they are just doing their fishing to make. I should be asking questions about outboard motors. Those are the things, and maybe some new type of nets that they are using. So if I don't ask the right questions, I might not be able to even carry out the study. I remember a time when an EMBA student told me in class that he is interested in studying why Ghana has not gone to space. Then I asked him that, what discipline do you belong to? And he mentioned that he belongs to project management. And I was asking that, so in University of Ghana Business School, do you even know whether any lecturer in here does anything about space studies? But there's nobody here does any study on space studies. So how can you be asking questions about space? Even for some of the lecturers, the closest they have come to space studies has to do with watching Avengers or Star Wars. They may not even know anything about space that much. So if you say you're going to do a study on space, they may not be able to support you or even help you. It means that the questions he was asking were not even fitting the discipline that were in the business school. However, if he was in a university like Embry-Riddle University in Florida, which is an aeronautical university, he can actually ask that question about why some African countries have not gone to space or related questions like that. So you need to note that sometimes the discipline that you belong to expects you to ask questions that are specific or relevant to that discipline. So the research questions that you ask even tells you whether your research is researchable or not. Can you imagine a student who is saying that he wants to do a research on ghosts in his family, and he's going to find the ghost and talk to them? That's going to be very interesting, because I wonder how you're going to conjure the ghost for them to show up. However, if the same student says that he wants to study perception about ghosts in families, that would be very interesting. This perception, so you can interview people, so you're asking for perceptions. But if you just say you're studying ghosts and you're going to look for the ghost and talk to them, you may not be able to find any ghost anywhere to talk to. So the questions that you ask makes the research researchable. So you keep that in mind. The centrality of every research is the question you're asking. One, because the research gives drive and direction to the research. The questions give drive and direction and purpose to the research. Number two, the research question you have differentiates your research from another person's research. Even you have the same topic, you are the same country you want to study, or the same context, the same respondents, but it could be different questions. Another reason is that the research question is what makes the research researchable. The search process starts from a question. So the question is not research, it's not a question that is not complex enough. It's not relevant to the given discipline the person belongs to. It's very difficult for you to start a research in that particular area. And then sometimes moreover, I need to also emphasize that the research questions is what gives you insight into where to even collect the data, who to call into the study. The boundary of the study is defined by the research question. So if I say I'm doing a study on so and so in a particular town, it tells me that I'm going to this particular place and asking seeking to study this particular phenomenon. So the research question tells you even the boundary of the study, where you collect data and whom you collect the data from. So the centrality of every research is the question you are asking. These four principles of building blocks form the premise of what a research is. Every research is an organized and systematic way of finding answers to questions. So let's keep that in mind. So now that we have an understanding of what research is, the next thing that we want to know is that why do we do research? We do research for a number of different reasons. Sometimes we do research to be able to develop something new, or to cause something particular to happen, or to understand what is happening, or make sense of it, or to explain what is happening. And if we can explain, we can even predict what will happen in the future. We can summarize these things into three: to discover and explore, to describe and understand, and then to create or to explain or to predict. Okay, so one of the things that we need to understand here is all the research that we are carrying out, as we mentioned earlier, we do research because we are trying to explore something. We are also doing research because sometimes we want to describe what is happening concerning a phenomenon, or we seek to explain what is happening. And if we can explain and understand why it is happening, then we can predict it in the future. Okay. I mentioned earlier that the research starts with a question. So some questions can help you explore, some questions can help you describe, some questions can seek to explain or predict the future. Just echoing that again, the centrality of every research is the question that you are asking. It means that the research question is what gives the research process direction. Because when you choose to do a research, you tell us where you're going to do your research question may embody who you are going, the population you intend to do the study with, and then where you are going to collect your data. So, and the phenomenon you are going to study. So it even tells you the boundary of the research. We may have the same research topic, but we can have different research questions. So the research questions is central to the research process more than just the topic. Now, we also argue that research is partly a process of discovery and partly a process of knowledge creation. What do I mean by that? First of all, research is in parts. What we try to emphasize here is there's no one researcher who knows it all. So every researcher tries to contribute some part of the knowledge so that future research will build upon the knowledge that has been created. Secondly, every research may discover something. It can be yes, no, or maybe. Through its discovery, it could create something which is tangible or create knowledge, which may be intangible. But that knowledge that it has created then becomes the foundation for future research. That's why we say that research is partly a process of discovery. You are discovering something, and partly a process of knowledge creation. For example, the computer you are using today, this may be the 2019 edition of the computer or the 2020 edition. Next year, the computer company will develop a new edition of this computer, a new version of the computer. Why? Because they will take feedback from the market and try to improve what they gave you this year. So in such a scenario, even though you have been able to develop and then be able to come up with this particular, you have bought this computer, you realize that the computer company may go ahead and define a new computer so that you can be able to make sure that the people who are using it next year can have a better version of what they have. So they are built upon existing knowledge to create something new. Okay, so I want you to pause. I want to pause a little bit so that I can reflect on it. And I'll take a few questions on that, on what you are reflecting on the first 3 slides that I've taught. Okay, can I have your questions? I thought you were going to type your questions in the question box. Do you have any questions? Or should I go ahead? Do you have any questions?
If it is girl talk.
If you have a question, let me unmute yourself and tell us and ask the question. Or you can put the question. Okay, so somebody is asking a question here. That please type your question so that we can be able to have some silence whilst I answer them. Someone is it so that the questions can change the topic? Yes. So I'll be talking about that later. The questions can even change your focus. You may start with a topic. You may realize that you need to ask better question than what you thought about, and you can go back. It can affect the question, the topic you selected. But I'm going to go to that. So that's a very good point. You said MPA students. I never mentioned them. Okay, I'll mention MPA students when I'm lecturing. Okay, you all do research. Okay, public admin students, I will mention you. And then all the groups of students here. Please, in my teaching, I may not mention your name or your group, or doesn't mean that I've forgotten about you. I'm just teaching on the flow, but I remember you. Okay, and I try to also use the names of the students I'm seeing. Like I'm seeing Christine and then Cynthia, Dinah, and then Emmanuel, Irua, and then Galaxy Tab S3. Hey, what an interesting name. Georgina, Akins, Gideon Obeng, Gloria, Godwin, Gracie, and Habiba. Okay, Habiba, I've answered your question. I've slowed down a little bit. So I'll do my best to, that's why I'll recap everything. But you should know that this video may be shared with you later on. And also, please, if you're having no sound, check your settings, because some can hear me. Earlier, I muted my mic so that I could hear you. Now I've unmuted my mic so that you can hear me rather. Okay. So let's go ahead and I'll come to your question again, Philip, and then Habiba. You said I didn't mention your name. I'll mention your name. Okay. If you want me to mention your name, you can let me know. Y9 2019. Interesting name. Ishmael. Okay. So Sheila, Pius and Francis, Faustina, Benedicta, Sylvester, you are all welcome. And it's nice to have you on board. Freeman, it's nice to have you on board. Okay, so those of you just joined us, we were emphasizing that the centrality of every research is the question that you ask. What is central to every research process is the question that you're asking. Your research area, yes, I know you are here. Your research questions is what differentiates your research from another person's research. Even though you may have the same research topic, like you want to do a study on representation of women in politics. We could all have different questions that we could ask, but we may have the same topic. Okay, so now let's continue to understand what happens when we don't do research. Okay, in the absence of research in society, people tend to draw upon common sources of knowledge, perception, and conclusion. So most of us will tend to draw on authority, tradition, common sense, media distortion, and personal experience. For example, if I should ask Nancy that why do women tend to do the laundry, she may say that my mother and the mother of all my friends did the laundry. My female friends did the laundry do it for their boyfriend, so it may be, or for their husband. So it may be just okay, or it feels right for women to do the laundry. If I ask for Sina or Sabach or Sandra, sometimes may say that even the TV adverts you have been watching, key soap advert, is always showing women doing the laundry. Then if I ask a man like Gideon or even Sam or even Philip, they may say that men are just not so much concerned about clothing. You see, what happens in life is that when we don't do research, we tend to draw on our common sources of perception and knowledge, and that may not be good in getting a representative view or even a dominant view or a holistic perspective of an issue. So it is better we draw on research than to draw on personal experience for most of the time. So that's one thing that we should keep in mind why we do research. We do research so that we could be able to have a better understanding of what is happening in a scenario or a situation and get a representative view of the issue so that we could actually have a balanced solution to it or a more informed solution to it. Otherwise, we can just be drawn by the media, and the media may even now we have fake news. Fake news can just misdirect us in our decision making. Okay, so let's go to the third section of our today, what we want to do. That's the research process. Now, I mentioned that research is a systematic and organized way of finding answers to questions. Now, when we say organized, it means that there are some steps in the research process. Those step-by-step process of creating and carrying out a research is what we call the research process. It starts with the topic. Then it comes to focusing the question. Then it goes to designing the study, collecting data, analyzing the data, and interpreting the data and informing others. So if you realize, if you don't have a phenomenon, you can't start a study. You have to have a phenomenon of interest, social phenomenon or business phenomenon of interest that you want to study. That's why we say select a topic, which should be relevant to your discipline. Then you focus on the question. You ask the right question within that particular topic, which I'll teach you how to select the right question within a topic. So somebody was saying that, what if my question changes? Does it affect my topic? If you look at it, this is a cyclical manner. The way it is, it has the flexibility of going forward and coming back. So somebody's question can change and come back and change this topic. Designing the study means that coming up with the decisions of how you're going to collect your data, where you're going to collect your data, how you're going to analyze it, and how you're going to interpret it. So if you're able to make those decisions in number 3, then you can go on ahead into number 4 to implement it, collect your data. Number 5, analyze the data. Number 6, interpret the data. And number 7, inform others. So we'll come back to the research process, but let's continue. What you see is that I can expand it into about 12 steps. Now, all these 12 things you see here, all that you have been doing the last 7 weeks or the last 6 weeks with Dr. Hinasari is number 11. That's all that you have been doing. How to analyze and interpret quantitative data. So the rest of the things, you may have not done it. maybe you have done something on hypothesis in number 4, but the rest of the things, selecting a topic, understanding a problem, determining a gap, determining your question, reviewing the literature, you have not done anything like that. So my objective for the next 7 weeks or 8 weeks is to try to take you through this 11-step process or 12-step process and teach you how to do these things. Now, somebody be saying that, hey, Prof, does it mean that you have spent 6 weeks or just on number 11? Don't worry about it. That's why you have another set of weeks to do the rest with me. Okay. I could go ahead and also summarize this one into 4 steps that you have identified the social business phenomenon you want to study. For example, somebody may be concerned about studying corruption in the public sector or leadership in the public sector. Somebody may be trying to study public sector reform. Somebody may be trying to study digitalization in healthcare industry. Somebody may be trying to study the impact of technology on tourism in Ghana. Somebody may want to study how fashion designers keep their books or accounting practices or bookkeeping practices among fashion designers or among SMEs. So this could be a phenomenon you want to study. You have to determine the right question to ask. So your phenomenon may be accounting practices. The right question is that where do you want to study accounting practices? And then which aspect of accounting practices do you want to even study? Somebody may, then you have to determine where you're going to collect your data, how you're going to collect your data. That's the design, the phase 3, and then how you're going to analyze your data. Then last one, you have to package it into a write-up, which you call the long essay, and then we'll submit it to your university. So we'll be going through all these steps throughout the sessions that we have. Okay, there's no question in the chat room, so I'm continuing. One thing I need to emphasize here is that there's a difference between the research process and the research design. Many students don't know the difference, but I need to let you understand that the research design is a subset of the research process. The research design just tells us how you're going to collect the data, when and where, and how you're going to analyze it. If you remember, it's just a subset, number 3, of the whole process. Now, because of the fact that it's likely that some of these things will change as you start the research work and you progress, we always advise that the research process always has the flexibility of revisiting previous activities. For example, a student who was working in the northern region in Ghana, being supervised, says that he wants to do a study on contemporary marketing practices in tourist centers, of tourist centers in the northern region in Ghana. Then realizes that he designs his study, he selects a topic, determines the right question to ask, start doing his literature review. He comes up with his questionnaire. He chooses the different tourist centers in the northern region he's going to interview. Then he gets promoted and then move to Accra or move to Cape Coast or Central Region to come and now head his company there. And then he calls his supervisor, says that I no longer have access to the data in the northern region. So can we change? And I use the Central Region. I say, okay, that's good. But it means that the Central Region has different types of tourist centers. So you may have to change your questions a little bit and change your focus a little bit and talk about some of the things that are relevant in the Central Region. So it can change the study. A student says that he's going to do a study on market women in Medina Market. He starts the study and realizes that to be able to interview market women very well, you have to be prepared to buy some of the produce. And he realizes that he doesn't have enough money to be buying every time he goes to the market. So he changes his design, that he wants to study a different type of group because he can't be buying from them. Sometimes some of these are basic challenges that students have. I remember a student did a study that he wanted on e-banking. And he wanted to use the bank he was working in. Then he wanted to ask some sensitive issues about the back end of e-banking. That was his study. He went to he did his study, he wrote the chapter 1, he wrote the chapter 2, his literature review, he wrote the chapter 3, the questionnaire, and designed his questionnaire, went to his company. The company said that they will not give him the data. So he came back to change the study. These things can happen. So we tell students that you have to have a bird's eye view when you start the study. When you choose your topic and choose a question, note that you have to have an idea where you're collecting data. When a student comes to tell you that he wants to do a study on former presidents, what is life after being a former president, a public admin student, And I asked him that, how many former presidents do you have access to? He said, oh, I'll do my best. I said, you give me the contact address of any of their assistants. He said, oh, I'll try and write letters. I said, you have to be realistic. If you don't take care, you spend about 4 months just trying to get access to your former president, and you don't get access to them. So you don't choose topics and then choose questions that you don't have access to the data. Otherwise, you struggle. Now, somebody is asking me a question that, is the research design different from the methodology? The design is part of the methodology. In fact, the methodology is the science of the methods you are going to use in collecting your data, the choices you are making, and why you are making those choices. So the methodology consists of the research methods you have chosen. That's why you have a chapter called methodology chapter. Within it, you tell us the methods you have chosen to do your research. So the course I'm teaching is research methods, teaching you, exposing you to all the different methods that you can use in research within an MBA program, so that when you want to do your research, you can choose any of these methods to write your methodology. So your research design is actually part of your methodology. Okay. And then, so let's continue. I was emphasizing earlier that you should keep in mind that when you choose your topic and your question, you should also think about how you are going to collect your data and analyze your data. Some of your students, you are not good quantitatively, so you don't like doing quantitative analysis. Don't go and choose a type of question that requires you to do a survey and analyze quantitative data if you don't have capacity or you don't have somebody to help you to do the analysis. It will be better for you to choose what you can be able to do, which may be qualitative. Or if you also don't like qualitative, you are very good at quantitative, make sure that your questions are phrased in a manner that leads to a quantitative study. And these are some of the things that we'll be learning as we go on. Okay, so now we have the research process well explained. Let's look at the last section of what we want to do today. That's the research, the types of research, which is a longer section, and we'll try to cover it within the next. Okay, so the types of research. We are going to discuss them in terms of who will use the research or who the recipient or the audience of the research is. Then the purpose of the research and who the researcher is. The first one is who is the recipient. There are two major recipients of research activities. One is the scientific community. If the scientific community is the recipient of the research activity, we usually call that type of research the peer research or the basic research. In that case, the researcher is carrying out the research and with the idea of publishing it or making it available to the scientific community for review and for feedback and to gain acceptance of its reliability and accuracy. So most of the time, the scientific community will check the rigor of arriving at the answers than just checking the answer. Then the second audience is the policymakers and practitioners. We call that one applied research. Most consultancies you see being given to faculty members to do by industry or being given to people to do in industry are usually what we call, they may call it policy research, but we call them applied research. Applied research means that the audience of the research is the practitioner and policymakers. And with that type of research, the policymaker and the practitioners who are most likely to be the audience of the research and the sponsor of the research too, will require you to communicate the results in a manner that will suit their interests. So the focus of that type of research is more on the outcome and the implications, not just the rigor of arriving at the answer. They are not so much concerned about your rigor of arriving at the answer, but more about the outcome. What did you see? What was your finding? So sometimes even when you finish your study, they collect the study from you and they re-communicate it, the parts that they want and publish that one, only that one. That's one of the reasons why most of you see government and other institutions doing that. They say that, why are they doing that? Why are they not publishing the full report? That's how applied research is. Applied research, the guy the person or the institution who is sponsoring it is usually a policymaker or practitioner. He's much more concerned about the outcome, what you want to use your findings for, what you want to use the implications of your results for, not about how you arrive at the answer. So when you carry out your research, he looks at the outcome, then uses it to make these decisions or communicate which part will be of benefit to them. Now, there are two types that I want to mention in terms of applied research. There's evaluation research or monitoring and evaluation. Usually those type of research are done either during the project or at the end of the project to ascertain our ability to achieve the project goals or achieve the project objectives. So they match where we are with what our project objectives were, or they evaluate the discrepancy between the two and try to see what we can do better to make sure that the project achieves its goals. And if it's after the project, we can also use it to assess the project, whether the project was able to come up with the finding, or we want to come up with achieve the goals that we set in the beginning. So that one is more of an evaluation research, evaluating after the program and the project has been carried out, or doing the monitoring it during the time the project is being carried out at specific milestones. Then we have the very interesting one we call social impact assessment, which is carried out with the objective of trying to assess the potential impact of a social intervention within a particular community. So let's say that you go to Agbozome and you want to site a borehole in a particular part of Agbozome, and then you do a social impact assessment. Your objective is to try to check what would be the potential impact of this site, of siting a borehole at this place. You may want to know what the women are saying about it, what the children are saying, or the school children are saying about it, what the men are saying about it, and what the chief is even saying about it, and try to unify the interest and make sure that you try to balance the different divergent interests that may come up. Because what you may realize is that the men may be looking for a football park. They don't want even the borehole there. The women are happy because they don't want to go that far to fetch water. The children are also happy because it means that even in school, they can come and fetch water and take it back to school. So they may be seeing these differences, and they may have different interests in where the borehole may be sited. Your objective is to make sure that you assess it so that at the end of the day, if the borehole is sited at point X, it doesn't become a white elephant. It becomes relevant to the community. So you have applied research, you have got pure research or basic research. So as I mentioned earlier, applied research, the objective, success is determined by the sponsor, if he's able to use it for decision making. And then, but with a basic research, success is determined if the results appear or is published in a journal, or others in the scientific community accept it and say that it's a job well done. Now, someone may be asking, maybe Obedient or Obed Kumi will be asking a question that, or Patricia, asking a question, Prof, what could be the outcome of our own study? Are we doing basic or applied research? So before I go to Susan, let me emphasize that you are doing both. You are doing both applied and basic. The reason being the fact that your supervisor is a representative of the scientific community in the University of Ghana. Your department will appoint your supervisor to represent them. So your supervisor is the one who is going to mark your work and is going to say that your work you have done meets the standards of the particular scientific community you belong to, maybe HR, or maybe project management, or maybe MPA. Now, what you see here is that if the supervisor attests to it, then he says that the work is a good work done. Hence, you'll be very happy about that. So you end up concluding, and your conclusion will emphasize the implications to research. However, because you are in a business school, we also expect you to assess what will be the potential impact of your study after you have done your findings. What is the potential impact of your findings or implications of your findings to practitioners and to policymakers? So we also expect you in your implication section of your chapter, your final chapter, your concluding chapter, you write the implication to policy, implication to practice, and implication to research. The research will serve the researchers, and then the policymakers will also get their implication, and then the practitioners will also get their implication. Now, it's not every study that has implications to policymakers, but most of the studies have implications to practitioners or to the organization that you collected your data from, or institution you collected your data from. So we expect you that when you do a study, know your audience, who will benefit from this work, apart from the researchers. That is one thing that we expect anybody in the business school to do. You write the implication you finish the work, and the implication to researchers is there for the scientific community, and the implications to practitioners and policymakers is there for the practitioners and the policymakers to learn from. Somebody is asking that please say, in writing the research, is it important to consider the current year? Yes, it's important to consider the current year. I'll talk about that as we go on, when we are selecting a topic. Okay. So the next thing is that you can categorize research according to the purpose of the research, being that research seeks to explore, describe, and explain. So You can have exploratory research, descriptive research, and explanatory research. Exploratory research is a type of research that seeks to explore an area where little is known or where little has been done either in the context or that's the research site or pertaining to the research topic in a particular context. What do I mean by that? So supposing you want to do a research on mobile phones. If you are doing a research on mobile phones in Ghana right now, everybody will tell you that there's much known about mobile phones. We know much about mobile phones now. So the penetration rate of mobile phones in Ghana has even crossed 100%. So what new thing do you want to tell us? However, if that same person seeks to tell us do a study on the adoption of smartphone by the elderly, that could be interesting. One, you are choosing a particular type of mobile phone, being smartphone. Secondly, you are now talking about the elderly. So now you are choosing a subgroup within the larger population. So that could be an exploratory research which we don't know much knowledge about. It could also be that you may choose to do a study on 4G adoption, the adoption of 4G services by SMEs. That would be interesting. Or even study mobile marketing impact, the impact of mobile marketing on marketing strategies of SMEs. That could also be interesting. So you could choose sub-themes that could give us a uniqueness or originality for you to do research. And those new areas you have selected, because we don't have much knowledge, existing knowledge on that area, it could be an exploratory research you can carry out because you are giving us the preliminary insights into that area. Another example, you Google right now employment or unemployment, and even in Ghana, you find so much research in that area, even reports from industry. However, if you choose female unemployment in a particular sector, maybe the extractive industry, you may realize that there's not much literature in that area. And you could actually, or much knowledge in that area. You can shed light, you can carry out a research to find out what are the working conditions, or what are the perception of employment for women in the extractive industry, or what are the working conditions. You could ask questions that are related to that area of research that we don't know much about, and you can be exploratory in nature. However, beyond exploratory, when we gain some understanding of what is happening, we can then do what we call descriptive research to describe how that thing is happening, describe how it is happening. So descriptive research tries to systematically describe a phenomenon and situation. So you do an exploratory research on female employment in the industry, and realize that there is a lot of support for women to get jobs a lot of practice for women to get jobs in the extractive industry. And you say, how is this so? So you want to try and find out how is this so, what is happening, what kind of jobs are they getting, and how is it happening? That then becomes a descriptive research. Or supposing you are interested in studying students and their usage of the library. You have a first question that you want to study perception of students concerning the University of Ghana library. Now you say perception. So it could be that you are starting the study trying to gain insight. So the perception type of study in this scenario can be exploratory. You are exploring the perceptions people have concerning the library. In this scenario, you don't even need to be in the library. You can even ask students online about their perceptions concerning the library. However, if you want to do a descriptive research in relation to library, you may end up going to ask a question on what are the attitudes of the students towards the library. So maybe for attitude is a behavior. So you have to go into the library and see the student attitudes in how they use the library. For example, some students go to the library and they tear pages out of the books and take it away. Some students also like hiding the books in specific corners. So only them and their friends will have access to it. Some of the students, what they try to do is that every day they are the first person in the library, they take a book and they go and read. And they hijack that reference book for the whole day. So nobody can have access to the book. Now, in such a scenario, you are seeing different behavior patterns in the library. Some people come to the library and come and sleep. Some of them to come and converse throughout the whole time they are there. So what you realize here is you are describing behavior in the library. So you can only describe the behavior in the library or attitudes in the library by being in the library. However, if you want to go further to understand why do some students steal the books, why do some students come to the library and spend all their time talking, why do some students come there and then they try to hide the books, because you have observed that behavior among them, then you are going to what we call explanatory research. Explanatory research tries to find causality. Causality meaning that they are trying to find why something occurs or why is that in occurring, and trying to find the factor that causes it to happen. So that type of research will seek to understand and explain a phenomenon or a situation, why it's occurring. So we don't just describe, we go to analyze and explain why and how something is happening. And that's why we call that explanatory research. So you can have descriptive research, exploratory research, and explanatory research. Someone may be asking that, sir, so which one do I do? It depends on the maturity of the concept you are studying or the topic you are studying, and then how much knowledge exists concerning the area, and even the type of question you are asking. Sometimes the questions you are asking will tell us whether the questions, there's knowledge about that question, there are answers about that question already. So we need to ask new questions, and those new questions can be exploratory. But if a question's answers exist, for example, let's use COVID-19 as an example. We have been told that it spreads through contact and through maybe shaking of hands, and these are one of the means it spreads. There are so many other methods. But if you are told that it spreads through that, the question that you may ask is, why does it happen? So that one, you want an explanation for it. But the describing how it spread is not the explanation of why it spreads through that particular medium. So when they start explaining the why, they tell you about the size of the virus and the fact that it can be able to float in the air, and the fact that it can be carried in water droplets and washed away. So when you start adding that information, it gives you understanding of why it works in a particular way and why it works in a particular form. But if they tell you that it spreads through this, that's that they're describing how it spreads. But why it spreads that way is a different kind of study that they carried out to find out why it spreads that way. So in every research, there is a difference between describing how something occurs and describe why it occurs that way or why it occurs. So that whenever you are doing research, you know that there are descriptive research, explanatory research, and then there is exploratory research. So when a phenomenon that we don't have much knowledge about it, and we are not gaining insight, we usually do exploratory. Usually, some students say that, so can somebody do all the three in one study? It can only be possible if you have a longitudinal approach to the study. For example, somebody is doing a PhD. He has 4 years to do the PhD. The first year, he does the exploratory aspect of it. The second year, he does the descriptive aspect of it. And the last year, he does the explanatory aspect of it. So it's possible. But for you that you are doing just about 6 weeks or 10 weeks or just 4 or 5 months spent on your long essay, usually you may choose only one type of study to do, either be explanatory or exploratory, which most of you do, exploratory or even descriptive. Okay, so let's look at other examples of what descriptive and then exploratory studies look like. And then, so in exploratory studies, the degree of the problem is described as the variables are not defined. So we are trying to understand what variables are pertaining here. Then in descriptive research, the variables are defined. So we want to describe those variables and get in-depth understanding of those variables. In explanatory research, we're now trying to look at what are the relationships that exist between the variables so that it produces a particular outcome. So look at this question. Quality of service is declining and we don't know why. So you want to carry out a research, so you are exploring. But if you look at the second one, what have been the trends in organization downsizing over the past 10 years? So we want you to describe the trends. Then the last one, which of the two training programs is more effective for reducing labor turnover? Now they're looking for causality. Which of these two is more effective at an outcome? So which of these two can produce this outcome? Then you're coming to talk about explanatory research. So you see that there are different types of questions that are asked in these particular types of study. This table like this is a good opportunity to know the possible questions that can lead to exploratory, explanatory, or descriptive. Don't just say that because you are saying what, it's a exploratory question, or because you are saying how, it's a descriptive question, because you are saying why, it's an explanatory. How and why can be explanatory. And sometimes why can also be exploratory, depending on the depth of knowledge we have concerning a phenomenon. Then from there, we can go to the type and what we may be interested in to research on. So we have got the approach of the research, the time dimension of the research. When we take the approach of the research, what we are emphasizing here is that when we take the approach of research, we are talking about quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods. But when we talk about time dimension, we are emphasizing on the time that the person carries out the study. Some students do the study in a time of a longitudinal study. That means that they are doing it over time. That means that they will ask questions, they will take a set of respondents and ask them questions, and after some time come back to them and ask them questions, and after some time come back to them over a span of a period. Or we can do cross-sectional studies like survey. A survey is a cross-sectional study. I come to your class, I give you a questionnaire to fill, and I collect the questionnaire and go back. So I've cut through time to ask your view about an issue. I don't come back again. So that one is more of a cross-sectional study. Now, on the approach of research, we can have quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods. Quantitative studies are usually trying to describe variations. What do we mean by variation? We are quantifying the extent to which something varies from another, or we are quantifying the extent to which something is dominant. So we may ask in a quantitative study, what is the dominant perspective of concerning an issue or a phenomenon? Or we may ask that to what extent do students do something? Or even in a hypothesis manner, students who get grade A never miss class. So I'm looking at class attendance and then the grade that you get. So I'm looking at the relationship between these two variables. But qualitative does something different. Qualitative seeks to explore the meanings and attitudes and values people associate with a phenomenon in order to have a better understanding than rather to test or support or disprove a relationship, which is more quantitative. Quantitative like to testing and disproving a relationship, while qualitative try to explain, giving us an understanding or describing a relationship. So let me give an example. The pen that you have in your hand right now that you're using to write, that pen as of today that you're writing as I'm teaching you is a means to an end. However, that same pen in the hands, on your own hand in an examination condition, the last paper, last day, the final 30 minutes, and the pen stops writing, it then becomes a do and die matter because the pen will now define whether you do well in the paper or not. So you need a pen, another pen to continue. That same pen in the hands of the president can be used to sign amnesty for people to free them from prison, which means that it's an opportunity of people, and a pen is a sign of authority. That same pen in your hand, when your child or ward brings assignment from school and you help her do it or him do it, and after that you sign an initial in the book to show that the sign of responsibility. As a parent, you have helped your child to be able to finish homework. It's a sign of responsibility. That same pen, when you go to the bank, you use to sign your checkbook and get access to your own money. So it's giving you access to some funds. Now, what we are trying to say that in all of these scenarios, the pen have different meanings, but the pen itself has not changed. It's the circumstances that have been changing. And the circumstances give different meanings to the pen. And people associate different meanings to the pen. A student who has been trying to get American visa for 30 years, now gets the opportunity that he has been issued a visa. When he goes to collect a visa and they say that get to take a pen and sign here, and takes the pen is not writing. You start saying it is spiritual because it's like nobody wants him to travel. So you may realize that the pen may have a different meaning to everybody because of the type of pen that the nature in which the pen is being applied and the circumstances in which the pen is being used. So we emphasize here that in qualitative research, our objective is to unravel the values people have concerning the issue. To unravel the values people have concerning the phenomenon they are trying to study, the beliefs they have of it, the attitudes they have of it, and then the meanings they associate with it. So what will mean much to somebody today may not mean much to another person. I remember when I was in Presec, there used to be a car called, I think, Barracuda, if I can remember. It was a type of Benz or something like that. And we were watching a video in which there was a US senator who was passing through a town. And as he was driving through the town, he was driving in one of these cars. And a rich man in the same state drove past with the same car, but he had opened the top and poured rubbish on the top of the car. So while the senator was passing to go to, I think, a particular forum to go and talk, so people were standing there welcoming him. Another person passed with a similar car, and he had piled rubbish upon the car, kind of degrading the car before the senator, which was a very interesting joke we used to have in Presec. So I'm just letting you understand that what the car that you have, in that scenario, the car the car has a different meaning to the senator. It has a different meaning to the rich person who was driving past the senator. So in qualitative research, we try to explore the meanings people associate to a phenomenon. And each of the phenomenon, the phenomenon may have different meanings depending on the person. So your job is to explore, discover what the meanings people associate with this particular phenomenon. Now, there are certain times in research that a student may be on the challenge or the problem or the phenomenon will require a student to do a mixed method study where he combines the strength of the qualitative and the strength of the quantitative. Now, one of the strengths of the quantitative studies is that it's able to tell you the dominant perspective or the dominant view in an issue. It tries to tell you a dominant view in an issue. For example, when I do a qualitative study and I get the views of people concerning an issue, when I'm doing a qualitative study, Jacob, I've seen your note. When you are doing a qualitative study and I'm able to come up with the different perceptions people have concerning an issue, I need to know which of them is the most dominant. So I may use a quantitative to know that these three views I've had, which of them is the most dominant view among all the three that I have. So that one will require me to do a quantitative study instead of a qualitative study. I would have done the qualitative to get the views, then I do a quantitative follow-up study to be able to get a dominant view. So while quantitative will give you an idea of the representation of a perspective among a given population, the qualitative will just give you the different views and opinions that exist in the particular population. So I may ask students that what are your views concerning doing a program, an EMBA program in Lagos? So I have three views. I like it, I don't like it. I have a somewhat attitude towards it. So I need to know among all these 120 students who are interacting with me, what is the dominant view? So I then create a survey and allow them to select to what extent do they like it or don't like it or have a somewhat or neutral perspective to the issue. And from there, I can do my quantitative analysis to know which is the dominant view the students have and whether the dominant view is significant or not. However, the qualitative would have told me that there are three different views, but it will not tell me which of them is the dominant. That is one of the reasons why I'm saying that the qualitative and quantitative can coexist and help each other. However, realistically, for a given EMBA student, can you do both in one study? Yes, if you have time and you have capacity to handle both qualitative and quantitative data. And if only your supervisor will allow you. It's not all supervisors that will encourage you to do a mixed method study. Some supervisors will tell you to do either a quantitative or qualitative, depending on their strengths. So a quantitative study may just ask students who obtain grade A, never miss a class, and just do a hypothesis test between class attendance and students' grade. A qualitative study may just ask a question on what are the perception of traditional medicines among nurses. A mixed method study will then go further and add the quantitative part and ask which of the perceptions is the dominant one. So in doing your long essay, you may end up choosing to do either a qualitative or quantitative or mixed method, depending on your strengths, the nature of the question you are asking, the maturity of the topic, and even the supervisor who is supervising you. These factors can influence the choice of approach. So in a nutshell, this is what I've been able to cover with you. The first question, the centrality of every research, the question that is being asked, is one of the questions on your review, on your the quizzes that you can find in the test and quizzes that you can find in Sakai. So try and answer it there. Question 2 and 3 is not necessary, just partly, it's just for your own discussions, but there are more questions on the Sakai platform for you to answer. Okay. So now that you have this understanding, a student asked me a question, so I want to go into that briefly in terms of selecting a topic. He was asking a question about what influences the topic and then what goes into it, because I need to be able to help you to start thinking about the topic. Now, before I can answer that question, I need to emphasize that there are different things, there are many factors that influence the choice of a topic, but let me tell you what you should avoid. First of all, it's necessary for you to avoid, okay. It's necessary for you to avoid common and overused topics. Like you go online and you search for unemployment, there's so much on unemployment. If you choose a sub-theme, meaning female unemployment, may be better than choosing unemployment. Or if you choose a sub-theme on unemployment, even in a particular context, maybe in the agricultural industry, it may be better. So don't just choose a common topic. Otherwise, it's very difficult to demonstrate originality. And somebody will say, Prof, what is a common topic? When you Google it, or you search for it in scholar.google.com, which are one of the platforms that students use and we all use for our research work, you realize that, let me just type it here. I'll give you other platforms later. You realize that, sorry. Okay. You realize that you may end up having so many outputs on this one, but it will be advisable to look for a sub-theme that you can generate, you can contribute something original. So having a topic is not bad, but having a broad topic means that you have to try and narrow it down to get a sub-theme that will be of, that will give you enough room of originality so that you can contribute something original. Then we also tell students to try to avoid religious topics and controversial topics that are out of your discipline. You see, if you go and choose, I remember a student said that he wants to do study on the marketing practices of fetish priest. And the supervisor asked him that, who will give you a letter to go and interview a fetish priest? And who will give you schnapp to go there? And when he told me, I told him that, look, why don't you choose to do contemporary marketing practices of traditional healers or spiritual healers? These are now they are now doing adverts on TV, on radio, and on Facebook. So you can actually study those ones. You can even easily collect data. Now, rather to choose the fetish program may be very difficult to even locate them. Okay, so, and then sometimes students choose topics which are political in nature. It means that there's a lot of discourse on it in industry and in the media, and there's a lot of contention. By the time you finish your study, maybe the views would have changed and your study will look flawed. So it's advisable to stay away from topics which are too controversial. If you're a political science student, I don't have a problem. If you're doing political marketing, I don't have a problem. But ask a relevant question that is not swayed by the media. Then broad topics. Some topics are textbooks. They're not topics to be studied as a research. A student comes to say, I want to do my study on production management or quantitative methods or total quality management. I say, but these topics you are mentioning are textbooks and courses. They are not actual topics that you can research on just like that. What about total quality management do you want to research on? What's some theme? Are you looking at quality, people's perception of quality of products? Is that what you're looking into? Then actually say what you want to look into. Then don't just use a textbook, a name of a textbook as your topic. Otherwise, you end up writing a textbook and not finish the work. There are some students who also choose topics that are too narrow to a scenario. They see something happening and say, oh, that is my topic. Why John left Sarah? Which is a very, very, one scenario you saw in your house or among your friends that John has broken up with Sarah. They say, hey, I want to do a research on that. That one, even your other friends know why John left Sarah. So it's no need for you to do a study on that. It's advisable for you to focus much more on something which is broader. For example, what you could then say is determinants or breakups among undergraduates. That is better than just choosing why John left Sarah. So you could look at something which is a sub theme, or something which is abstracted to be a broader theme that everybody can understand, so that you can be able to collect data on. If you want to still do why John left Sarah, then the topic that you have selected, or the event you have selected to study, should be a unique event. For example, a student was discussing corruption to me and causing financial loss, and I said that, okay, it's not bad. I know what you want to do. So why don't you say that causing financial loss to the state, evidence from the Wyoming case, or well, that's what he wanted to study. I said that is okay. It's a well popularized study, issue that happened in Ghana some time ago, and there's enough information to collect data on it, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned from that. But if you choose something that looks like witch hunting, so much peculiar to one event that just never occurred again, and it looks like it doesn't even have any significance to your discipline, you have to be very careful about that. Can an MBA research consist of only one approach? Yes, that's why I say you can do only quantitative or qualitative, depending on your strengths or your supervisor's choice or the topic you are choosing. So now that I've mentioned that, let me tell you what can influence your topic to answer Sandra's question. The first one is you, the person who is doing the study, you are the one going to wake up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. to do the reading. So if you have not got interest, don't even start it. Now, one of the reasons why you is important is because you need to have some pre-knowledge before you can do some research in an area. If I mention that do research on corruption, at least there's a lot of issues about corruption in developing countries that you can start from. That comes into mind. However, if I come to you that your research will be about exploring UFOs and galaxies, you'll be asking me a question that, Prof, I don't know anything about UFOs and galaxies. The only thing I know about that is from Avengers and maybe Star Wars. So I can't tell you anything about that. So you see, sometimes when you may choose a topic, ask yourself, what is your pre-knowledge for that topic? So some students look at the assignments they have been doing in their courses. Maybe they were learning their marketing student, the time they were studying marketing, or the time they were studying organizational behavior. They had something, they did a topic, and that interest drew their interest, and that made them read around. And after reading around, they came up with, oh, I would like to study this. That is better than starting something that you don't have no idea about, and it tells you have to do more reading. A student came to me, was telling me that he doesn't know what to do for his EMBA work. He's confused, and she was a mother and had a 3-year-old child. So I told her that she was just chatting with her, and I was telling her, so how is your day like? She told me that she has stopped work for some time to raise her child, and we were talking about the daughter, and she told me that the daughter is somebody who likes adverts a lot. So when some adverts will come on TV, then she'll be dancing and be reacting to them. And I said, okay, you have got a topic there, the impact of advertising on children. Go and do that study. There's quite some literature in that area. I said, wow. And she was very happy. And I said, yes. Sometimes in your daily life, certain things can be happening that can be of interest to you, that can lead to a research topic that you can start exploring on. Then you can read more about it. So you can examine your own workplace. You may get a business idea that you can use to start doing research on, but I'll explain how to transfer a business idea to a research concept later. The next thing is your supervisor. The supervisor is the one going to mark the long essay. So you have to have a very good relation with your supervisor. So like Habiba was asking, how can I select my supervisor? How is my supervisor assigned? It depends on the department. Some departments assign supervisors after you have submitted your topics or your titles to them. Then they look at what you have written and they assign them to you. Others just share the supervisors by equity. So they'll just share that there are 10 students there are 5 lectures, each person gets 2. Not any specific reason why you are assigned to the supervisor. But my advice to you is that some departments also look at what you wrote as your topic and then choose and match you to the best supervisor who can supervise you. However, the best thing for the student to do is to be proactive. Go online, go to the business school website, go to the faculty page, get to know the other department members of the faculty that you belong to. Go and read about their research profile, their research, what they have been doing. You can even approach them and then tell them that I saw you did this and this, and I'm interested in doing that thing with you, or send an email to them. So that if it's possible, the person can then go and tell the department head or the responsible person there that I've already started talking to Kwame now, and I would like to do my work requirement on that area called this and that. So that could be one way you could do it. Another thing is that even if the department requests you to bring your topics and you choose a topic which is relevant to somebody's area, they could assign it to that person. But be proactive in what you are doing so that you can even get to know the lecturers, what they are doing, so that you can talk to them ahead of time. Another reason why, another topic issue that could influence the choice, factor that could influence the selection of a topic is your data source. Some students want to select data from their company or from a company that they have access to. It's not wrong, but make sure that the topic you have selected can fit the company. A student chose that he wanted to do study on bad accounting practices. And they went to choose a company that had good accounting practices and was not finding any bad accounting practices. So he was taking a question to, why don't you have bad accounting practices? What I'm trying to emphasize here is that if you don't take care, the topic you may have may be a misfit with the organization you have selected. And because you have made up your mind that you are going to use that organization, you don't want to change, you now want to try and choose a topic that to fit the organization. And that becomes a very difficult hassle, a difficult work for you to do, because it's not easy for you to have a good balance where you have a good question and you face a good organization that you have selected already. So whenever you are making these choices, try to make sure there is a good intimacy between the question and the topic and the organization of choice. Okay. What if you identify your strength is in quantitative, your supervisor strength is in qualitative? That one is between you and your supervisor. It happens at most of the time. So sometimes, that is why I say be proactive and go and talk ahead. Sometimes a student may tell the HOD that there should be a swap so they can get a supervisor who is quantitative. But I advise you that start approaching the supervisors early and even try to position yourself so that you can be selected by the right person. But some supervisors are friendly. They may allow you to do your quantitative all right, but they cannot help you in the quantitative if they are not good in the quantitative. I've seen that happen before. Okay, so the next thing that can influence the choice is the current trends. Now, most students try to choose things which are very contemporary. Oh, this is happening in Ghana, so let me study it. Or this is happening around, let me study it. It's not bad, but the difficulty with that is maybe it has not gained maturity, so people cannot answer questions on it. So you may go to the field and very few people can answer the questions that you have. So please be very careful when you choose a topic which is a current trend. Or sometimes it's a trend, but it may look fancy now, interesting to everybody now, but by the time 2 months comes, in 2 months' time, it may not be interesting to anybody anymore. And the whole country may move away from the topic. And you may not even get people who want to answer the questions on that issue anymore. So be very careful in choosing a current trend. Be very careful about it because the trends may evolve and may change. And even the issues that you may choose to study right now, they may evolve and change. They may not even be the same issue by the time that you'll be finishing your study. Your study may take you about 4 months minimum to finish. So if you don't take care, you start your study in the second month, you realize that the whole thing has changed. It means that you have to change the phenomenon of study again. So be very careful in choosing something which is just trendy. Then the sponsor. Sponsor comes in when sometimes you have a scenario where somebody is sponsoring you and you want to do a study, they require you to do a study on the organization. It's not wrong, it happens. But you should note that it is possible that you may find out something that you need to be very objective about, but you cannot write it to the sponsor. For example, you find evidence of corruption and you are very careful that to write it out, because if you don't write it very well, people will lose their jobs. So you may have to write a different report to the university, which you anonymize the organization and be very, very frank and open about your analysis and critical about your analysis. But when you get to the one you're writing for the organization, you just try to sum up and say there was a thief or there's an issue, and then don't be too specific so that you can maintain your scholarship and maintain the relationship you have. Maybe you may find the manager concerned and talk to him later about it. But be very careful going to do something of an organization that is sponsoring you and you end up criticizing them. It could affect you. Your criticism could affect you a lot. So be very careful how you write a long essay for somebody who is sponsoring you. Write a different report for them and then write another one for the university. Then the last one has to do with the research gaps. Research gaps has to do with discrepancies in existing research, which needs to be addressed. You see, every research that you carry out, it's important to find out what other researchers are saying concerning the phenomenon and find out what gaps have been led by these researchers. What we mean by gaps is that whenever anybody is doing a research, when they finish in their conclusion, they write out these are the future research directions that anybody doing research in this topic in future should look into these issues. Now, when they do that, that means that they are actually living up or pointing, giving you direction or pointing where future research will start from concerning corruption, concerning the different topics. So we always I've emphasized that whenever you are doing research, try to know what research has been done on the topic already, so that you find out what gaps exist and then situate your work based on the gaps, because those ones are much more relatively enduring more than just choosing things which is trendy. You have found something in industry, but try to read the same topic in the literature to find out what matters concerning that topic. Now let's look at an example. You see, this is a write-up by Professor Abo on corporate governance and financing decisions of Ghanaian listed firms. Now, in future, I'll use other examples. So please, if today I don't use your example on my slide, please forgive me. Now, what it's saying here is that corporate governance has been identified in previous studies that existing research to influence firms' financing decisions or capital structure decisions, which also affect their performance. And he gives the references to that. What he's saying here is that corporate governance is an issue to study, but it has been identified in the previous studies that have been done on it that it can affect or influence financing decisions of firms. That's all that he's saying. Then he goes on to evaluate and say that these studies, which are empirical, have tended to focus mainly on developed economies with inconclusive results. Now, what is he saying here? He's saying that the current studies on corporate governance, which are focused on financing decisions of firms, are all coming from developed countries. There are very few from developing countries. So it tells you there is a gap, that there is too much research on corporate governance and financing decisions of firms in developed countries at the expense of developing countries. That is one gap. Number two, it's also saying that the studies even on the developed economies is inconclusive. So there's more studies are needed in developed economies concerning corporate governance. Then it goes on to say very little, however, has been done on corporate governance in Sub-Saharan Africa, especially with respect to firms' financing decisions. What is he saying? He said that even corporate governance research in Sub-Saharan Africa is very few. And then the little that exists have not done much on firms' financing decisions. So he has emphasized two other gaps here. Sub-Saharan Africa needs more studies on corporate governance and also needs more studies on corporate governance and firms' financing decisions. Then he comes to Ghana. So you see how he's building. He comes from developed countries, developing countries. Sorry about that. I lost my connection, the internet. Yes, the screen is off. The screen is coming back. The screen is off. The screen is coming back. Okay. So you can hear me now. Good. So now I lost some of you, but we are back on 77 people. Okay, so let's continue. What I was emphasizing here is the issues have been discussed from the developed country, then it goes to the developing country, then he goes on to Sub-Saharan Africa. Then he says, in Ghana, for instance, economic development and restructuring have introduced modern forms of business activity and diverse financing structures like Ghana Stock Exchange in the past 2 decades. So it means that Ghanaian firms are now being exposed to more financing options than previously because now you have stock exchange. Now, when you expose firms to more financing options, then it becomes an issue of corporate governance. So it is now crucial to determine how current issues in corporate governance affect the financing decisions of Ghanaian firms. This paper or this study specifically examines the relation between various variables of corporate governance and financing decisions and the capital structure decisions of firms listed in Ghana Stock Exchange. So listed in Ghana Stock Exchange within the 6-year period, 1998 to 2003. Now, if you look at the last statement, which is the purpose of the work, Prof. Abo is emphasizing what he wants to do in the study based on the gaps he has found. The gaps he has found was echoing the fact that there is less research on corporate governance in sub-Saharan Africa. And in Ghana has had more, Ghanaian firms are having more financing options. So it's important to study firms that are gaining advantage of these financing options by being listed on Ghana Stock Exchange. Do a study of corporate governance in those firms. And he has then stated which year period he's going to study. The firms that were listed in that firm in Ghana Stock Exchange between 1998 and 2003. So a research gap, it is a discrepancy in literature that a researcher seeks to address. So by pointing out the gaps, he then makes a statement based on the gaps that he wants to address this. So if you look at the title of the work, Corporate Governance and Financing Decisions on Ghanaian Listed Firms, it has a relationship with the purpose that he said he's going to achieve. Now, if you look at that, let's take another example. Existing literature has, or exam literature has fairly covered studies on mobile phones and mobiles for development in Sub-Saharan Africa. So this one is talking about mobiles for development. The studies include mobile phones and fishermen and farmers in Ghana, mobile phone sharing practices in Ghana, mobile phone in development in Nigeria, mobile payments in Uganda, and mobile ownership and social capitals in Tanzania and South Africa. So this guy is just taking a stock of all the studies that I've done with mobile phones in Sub-Saharan Africa. Then he goes on to say, despite this study, so he's showing you a discrepancy again. Despite this study, there is a call for more studies to test earlier findings in different contexts, that's in different countries or in different contexts within the same countries. And in different microeconomic activities. The microeconomic activity that we mentioned earlier is fishermen and farmers. So now we are encouraging you to study other economic activities like street vendors, like fashion designers, like other people who are using mobile phones in their business in order to have a better understanding of the impact of mobile phones in developing economies. So these are the gaps that you see being highlighted here. So in whatever you are doing, you have a research topic and then you have a research title. The research topic has to be of interest to you and your supervisor and has to be original. By the time you finish, the originality is defined by you adding the gap. So when you add the gap to the topic, you can get a title. So let me give an example. The title is different from the topic. The title is an equation which is equal to the topic plus the contribution or the area of study, the sub-area of study you want to study. For example, Prof. Abbas said that he wants to do a study on corporate governance, and his contribution is more on the financing decisions. So corporate governance and financing decisions. And then he added then the context, Ghana. Then he added the population, Ghanaian listed firms. So the title is a shorter, the title is longer than the topic. The topic is a subset of the title. So the title then becomes the topic plus the contribution or the sub area you want to look into. And then, or the angle or the perspective of the topic you want to look into. And then the population, and then the context. So Prof. Abbas' work was on corporate governance and financing decisions of Ghanaian listed firms. Corporate governance is the topic. The sub-theme he wants to look into, or where the contribution is lying to, or where the gap is in financing decisions of firms. The topic, the context is in Ghana. The population is looking at are the Ghanaian firms who are listed between 1998 and 2003. So whenever you are writing your title, we look for these components. I'm not saying that all titles have all these components in it, but it's the better titles have these components in it. At least the topic and then the context where it is taking place, or and the sub-theme he's looking into. Okay. So we expect that as you are forming your title, you should think about the fact that whatever you end up choosing has to be of both interest to you and your supervisor. It should be specific and distinct, not too broad. It should incorporate the main purpose of the research. It should be captivating and unforgettable, and your research questions should come out of it. These are some of the things I'll be teaching you as we go on in the future sessions. But let me come to one point. For every business problem you have, you can have 1,001 research questions for it, or research problems. For example, what you see here is that a student has a business problem in his office, decline in employee productivity. So he's asking a question, How can our company improve the productivity of its employees? When you go into the literature, you can study this from different perspectives. So I can go into my literature and search for employee productivity in organizations or employee productivity. And then I can lead up to this, can lead up two types of studies, just simply. What factors influence employee productivities, or what are the characteristics of productive employees? These are two different types of studies. The latter one, the characteristics of productive employees, presupposes that there is something called productive employee in the organization, like how some organizations have best employee of the month. So they may have a rubric of assessing who is the best employee of the month, and then they can, of the month, so they can use that one to be assessed. But the factors that influence productivity can be productivity at the unit level, at productivity with a particular equipment, productivity at the level of an individual, or at the level of a team or a group. So or at the level of the whole organization. So there could be so many different perspectives to that. So if you are doing a study on the first one, it's different from doing a study on the second one. That's why I'm saying that both studies can contribute answers to the same business problem, but they are different studies. Hence, I mentioned earlier that the centrality of every research is the question you're asking. Even though the topic is about employee productivity, we have different questions that we are asking. This will give us different answers. All of them try to solve the same problem. Okay. So in determining the scope or the population you want to study, some students can study one part of an organization, maybe productivity in the finance division, or compare different parts or functions of organization, sales against finance or sales against accounting or marketing. And then one organization can study the whole, maybe car bank, or two organizations, car bank and eco bank, or the sector, the banking industry, depending on the student. Sometimes some students even study the whole country. That means that they may study at the macro level, maybe some policies that the nation has put in place. Some students do cross-country study, like Ghana, Nigeria. So there's opportunity to do different studies, but you look at the time that, examine the time that you have for your EMB or MBA program so that you can be careful, you don't attempt to do a PhD. Some students are very ambitious, they want to solve all the problems. I tell them that, do you want to finish or you want to stay around? If you want to finish, I advise you to choose what is measurable within the given time and finish. You can come back and do a PhD and solve all the problems in Ghana. Okay, so in trying to create a research title for yourself, you start by identifying a broad topic, and the topic should be consistent with your discipline. Then you determine the scope you want to look into, and then you conduct a preliminary literature review. Sometimes some students are not sure of their scope, so they jump number 2, go and conduct some review, go to Google Scholar and other platforms, which I'll teach you next week, to be able to start searching for articles. What I'll teach you next week has already been taught. You can go online and watch the video ahead of time so that you can be ahead of the class, and then when you come to interact with me online, you can ask me the relevant questions. Now, after you've done the review, you can then determine your research problem, like you saw Prof. Abel's problem that you wrote. That would lead you to your purpose and objectives, and then you can go back and refine your title. So sometimes students may start their topic, they can have a tentative title in their mind, and then come back again and create a better title. Okay. So what I'll do here is that I've ended session 2. You can also watch it online on the video that is already on the platform. I'll compile this one for you also. But I've been able to let you understand how to choose a research topic, and I've also been able to let you understand what the research title is and what the research topic is, and then what influences the choice of a topic. You also know what the research is. I'm going to pause here and answer questions from you. Then we can round up. Okay, so you can either type your question in the chat room or unmute yourself. Unmute yourself and then ask a question. Manager, you are the first person who has unmuted himself. So, and Vicky. So I hope you are going to ask. Okay, Vicky, we are on you now. Are you asking a question? Vicky, the camera is on you.
I didn't really get the difference between. Yeah, I'm talking. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Can you explain further? Can you explain further the difference The difference between research topic and the research title. I didn't really get which one is the subset. Is it